Welcome to Season 4 of the Builders Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Levenhagen. This season, we're exploring the human behind the builders, the stories, experiences, and defining moments that shape the people who build great businesses. Builders helping builders. Enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Christian Helms. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me.
So you are the founder of Helms Workshop, is that right?
That is correct.
All right. And why don't you we'll just take a quick minute or two and just tell us what you do over there and, what's your main business today? We'll start there.
Definitely. We're a branding and marketing agency. So we're building brands for clients that are regional, national, and even international. So big brands like Disney and Nabisco and Harley Davidson and Whole Foods and Tacovas and all these spirits brands like Diageo and Brown-Forman. But we're also working on regional stuff that's a little smaller as well, working more directly with founders. And we like that duality. Keeps us sharp and it keeps us interested.
Very nice. You mentioned Harley. I'm in Milwaukee, so
nice.
I know
like
a little
Milwaukee
bit about them.
Lot, by the way.
Do you?
Yeah, I was tapped to be the keynote speaker at a thing called TypeCon years ago. Imagine Comic-Con, but for typography. Like that level of geekdom is high, right? And they called and asked, and they said, hey, we had it in San Francisco last year. The year before, we had it in Hawaii. We'd love to have you as the keynote speaker. And I said, sign me up. And they're like, you're going to Milwaukee. And I was like, wait, I thought we were like in the Hawaii conversation.
You were robbed.
But I ended up having a blast. Milwaukee in the summer is so much fun.
Yeah, we got a lot of festivals, a lot of
festivals, great art, great food, great beer, cheese curds everywhere. I'm in.
Yeah, you pretty much that's the whole thing. You just hit all the high points. That's it.
I took advantage of my time there.
No, that's awesome. So, what we do here on The Builders is we love to talk about stories, origin stories, the journey, get to figure, and in season 4, we're really digging into the stories even more, where we want to, learn as much about the builder and how the builder was built. That's where we start. And then, through that, so the first episode, today is going to be mostly about your story. You got a very interesting one per our previous discussions. And then from there, we'll talk more about your business, where you landed, and all awesome things you're doing today. And if that takes us into a second episode, so be it.
Great.
But today we're here to learn about Christian. So with that, I'm going to throw it to you, and you can start however you want to start, as far back and whatever you want to do. To your
story
and what makes it interesting and where all the golden nuggets lie.
Yeah. I found this business, this industry, this career, this calling, whatever you want to call it, in sort of a weird serendipitous way. I grew up in a really small town in North Carolina, a little mill town on the border of South Carolina, and was a super artistic kid, a super creative kid, always making things, always building things, always blowing things up. And I was also a good writer. But the idea of brand, which is essentially a combination of strategy, design, and writing, was not something that I was familiar with. There wasn't a branding agency in this tiny little mill town. There weren't anyone doing it. And this is pre-internet. So there weren't cool things to look up to learn this stuff. So really the only design I saw was some pretty naive is not the right word, but pretty raw, sort of hand-done, DIY art or signage or whatever, some of which I absolutely loved, or like a Doritos package, which it doesn't feel like a person made that. It just shows up, you don't see the link between the maker and the thing there. So I went off to college for journalism and creative writing and was taking a ton of those classes and a ton of studio art classes as well, with no clue that those two things could interrelate in really interesting and magical ways.
What was the studio art classes? What is that?
Everything from painting to sculpture to nude figure drawing to you name it. It was kind of the full gamut. Every class I could take, I would take, even if it was at night. And the one thing that really kind of lucked out there was that when you go to journalism school, they make you take a really broad array of classes. The idea being that if you be a better journalist, if you know a little bit about a lot of things. So I'm taking linguistics classes and poli-sci classes and folklore classes and all these just really interesting classes. And it turns out that that also makes you really great at branding because the
Hmm,
more you know about the world, about culture, about society, the more you can leverage that to start a meaningful conversation with people. So
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah, I wish I could say I planned it that way, but it just kinda landed that way. My senior year in college at University of North Carolina, I found branding. I we're talking to some people at University of North Carolina State University. They have an interesting brand and design program, and I was like, "Well, this is what I wanna do for the rest of my life." The second epiphany was I have no skill set whatsoever specifically to this, so I went to grad school for that at a place called Portfolio Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Absolutely amazing school. And from there, won an internship competition to intern for Michael Bierut at Pentagram in New York, which is the Cadillac of design agencies. And then it was just kind of a springboard from there.
Wow. So tell me more about like why branding, why design? Like what attracted you to that? Is this you said you were a creative kid
Yeah.
and that's just you loved expressing yourself that way and but you wanted to do that for brands? Where's that?
Yeah. It's funny because if I think about making stuff as a kid, I realized that it was always made to serve some sort of purpose, some
Okay.
sort of communication goal, some sort of witty, funny, quirky thing that I wanted to put out there.
Huh.
And a lot of branding is that. It's part strategy. So that gives you a target. Even if you're going to usurp that target and come all the way to the other side to surprise people. And then it gives you a way to use words and visuals to help people understand that sometimes without even having to think about it, without having to read a single word. And it's really powerful and it's really challenging. I have a friend who's a research scientist, and we were having a beer year or 2 ago, and he said, "I don't know how you do what you do because you have to reinvent the wheel every day." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, but I get to reinvent the wheel every day. Like,
Right.
that's
That's
the
the
good
fun.
part, you know?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, "That sounds absolutely awful to me." So, it works for me,
Yeah.
it works for
Yeah.
my team, and we really enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, did you have anybody that inspired you? Like I mean, you said
Oh,
this is
yeah.
pre-internet. This is the thing I always think about this, like how people did have no idea if they were born after like the 90s,
I
like what
know.
it was like.
I mean, I signed up
Like,
for college on a rotary phone with a catalog punching in
right,
numbers. Like,
right.
that's
That's
ridiculous.
insane.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, there was no catalog, there was no anything. So, a few things that got me fired up, starting as a kid, there was a independent grocery near our house, and they would have these gorgeous, giant, hand-lettered, super huge marker signs, saying, short rib or, cabbage for $3 or whatever, and it was beautiful. It was just absolutely you could feel the personality and the gestural nature and the energy in that lettering, and I was just mesmerized by it. Thinking back, my dad actually found a way to borrow that set of giant brush markers and let me give it a try when I was a kid. And I'd kind of
Love
forgotten
it.
about that until we started
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah.
Um, Another piece that's really important for me is more in that sort of folk naive art space. We would drive up to a little fishing cabin my granddad built in the summers up in Western North Carolina, and about halfway up, there was this sign on the side of the road, maybe 4 feet wide, 3 feet tall, painted all black. And to the right, scrawled in red lettering, it just said repent. And to the left, there was a very crude painting of a young woman on fire. And that just scared the hell out of me. But it made me think. I'll never forget it. I could probably draw it by hand right
Right.
now. It
Right.
made me feel something. It communicated very effectively what their point of view was. I mean, you're not going to miss that point. And so that's a weird thing that stuck with me. Getting into college, it was art, it was music. I was a big indie rock kid, and that merges with art really well through posters and packaging and all of the merch and rad t-shirts that bands have, which I ended
Yeah.
up doing later in my career. And then beyond that, once I got into grad school, it was just like drinking from a fire hose with all these amazing folks like Michael Bierut, who I mentioned, Tibor Kalman, Paul Rand, Bob Gill, just, I mean, there's so many. I was just kind of, my eyes were open to this whole world and this whole
Yeah.
history. And I just dove in with both feet.
Fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like you were made for this. So, so after school, after you got the education and then where did you go from there?
Yeah. So I got this great internship in New York, like I mentioned, at Pentagram.
Hmm.
And the dean of the school kind of came to me and said, after 6 months or 8 months or whatever it was, when this internship is up, like, you have managed to get to know everybody who's important in design in New York right now. Stefan Sagmeister, Open Studio, Gail, what's her name? All these people, like, that is a career's worth of wealth you have to leverage. He's like, you need to stay up there and give it a go in New York. And so I did. Um, Pentagram was not hiring when I finished up my internship, although, gosh, I wish they had been. And so
Pentagram. Who was Pentagram that you wanted to?
Pentagram is just like the pinnacle of design agencies in the US.
Okay.
They're absolutely amazing.
Huh.
Look them up. Amazing books, amazing work, amazing partners. But they weren't hiring. And so I would have these introductions with all these different people. And one person who I kind of got to know and who believed in me would hand me off to another person. And eventually that sort of ping ponged into a job offer. Um, and the job offer looked amazing. Like, they were working on Levi's and Miller Lite and MTV and all this really cool stuff. The big Elvis album reissues they were doing at the time, like this really cool work. And so I jumped in, and it was the most abusive, unprofessional,
Oh
just
no.
awful job you can imagine. Just, 6 days a
Good.
week, 18 hours a day, getting yelled at, not getting any support.
Wow.
You would get there at 8 in the morning or whatever, and your creative director wouldn't come in until around 3 in the afternoon, hungover with some kind of fried sandwich, and he wouldn't tell you what to do until about 6 at night, and so then you're working through the night to kinda be ready for the next day, and that just got me
Good
burned out.
grief. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't take long for that to really burn me out, and, also New York wasn't a long-term fit for me, I knew.
Hmm.
I miss growing up in the South, I miss trees and people
Oh,
and
I'm sure
space, and
it's pretty big
yeah,
difference.
I
Yeah.
mean, all that stuff. And so I came down to again, the dean of the school called me and said, "Hey, there's this creative conference near Austin, Texas, that is absolutely amazing. And I think you should fly down for it and enter your portfolio in this creative conference competition." I said, I don't know. They said, "Well, they give away a ton of money to the winners in all these different
Okay.
categories. So I have a sense you can probably pay for your trip to do it." And I was like, "Great." Came down, made amazing friends very quickly, and won the whole competition, won a big pile of money. Big pile of money
Awesome.
for me at that time.
But yeah,
But not
contextually.
retiring on that. But
Right.
but
Right.
for a
Right.
kid just out of school, it was pretty
Yeah.
fantastic. And I fell in love with Austin. Um, we've got Town Lake and Town Lake Trail, Lady Bird Lake, that you can jog around. We've got weird neon signs that my now friend Evan Boyle has made all over town. You've got great tacos, great live music, cheap beer. And I was just like, why don't I live here? Like, if I'm going to be miserable, I could at least live. If I'm going to have a miserable job, at least I could live somewhere that I'm really inspired by and I love, right?
That sounds
Mo-
like balance to me. You can be
it's
miserable as
better than
long as
what I
you're
had going in New York. Yeah.
right. Right.
And so I moved down, didn't know a soul. Was lucky enough to land a job at an amazing agency called McGarrett Jesse, more of an advertising and brand agency. So less, well, actually very design focused still. They're amazing at brand. And it was great. At the same time, I befriended a lot of folks in the music community here. I was going to shows like 4 or 5 nights a week, and got to know all these bands who needed design, who needed brand work,
Ah,
and started doing promotional posters, packaging, brand merchandise, backdrops, drum heads, whatever folks needed, and ended up working with these bands like Spoon and Modest Mouse and Wilco and the Whole Steady and the National, like all my favorite bands I got to work with. I always joke that the idea was, I'm going to be here anyway. You might as well pay me to come to the show.
right. Right.
And so that was a tremendous amount of fun. That grew to the point where I couldn't really do it and the day job at the same time. So I kind of laterally stepped and started doing that full time. And rode that wave of music until streaming started to hit. and suddenly music didn't have any more money, certainly not to spend
Mm,
on me.
right,
And
right.
then was able to pivot back to focusing the fledgling agency on brand and the things I was actually trained in. And from there, just slow incremental growth over the past 16 years.
So, okay, let's one of the awesome things in the through lines through everything, every stage and everything you've done, and I'm big on relationships and building networks and of people that it seems like early on you learn that that was really really important
Hmm.
to make those connections. I remember back, so I was artistic as well when I was younger,
Of course.
and but I took a different path. And I wish I would have listened to this podcast back in
Well,
19
that's why it exists. There you go.
back in 1990, around that. um, because I considered, I guess I didn't know what I wanted to do, and that was part of it. I didn't want to just go to school to go to school. I
Yeah,
was kind of
good.
half my mind was in business, half my mind was in art, and but then I decided to chase fine art as a self-taught artist and paint on canvas and did a couple shows. I ran my own shows and a few, and did
Nice.
commission work and stuff towards the mid '90s. But I think back at that time, and one of the things that I didn't have was connections
Mm.
and meeting the right people and being in that community, and especially pre-internet. Like I didn't have, again, the benefit
Yeah.
of internet today. It's like
You
you
don't
have
even know
so
who to
many.
connect with. Exactly. Yeah.
Right, right. So I'm learning. Like still have the library. I have a library of books. I probably went to the actual library
Yeah.
to learn everything from my craft to how to run an art business.
Yep.
And but having said all that, yeah, okay, I can learn all that, and I have some talent hopefully in there somewhere. But I didn't really. I knew a few artists along the way. I met a few artists, but I didn't know any. That's why I always thought, like, if I would have made the choice to go to like university or go to college and whatever, um, th- that would have put me in front of people, and I
Hmm.
would have had peers and people that I could have networked with or whatever. I felt like that was something I was really missing, and that I would have long term would have had a better time.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
important. And I think in the beginning, when I was kind of coming out of grad school, it was just my sheer enthusiasm for this thing that helped make those connections. When I was working at Pentagram, there was a box of Pentagram books that showed up on the dock in New York. It was raining and they couldn't get them. And I was like, I'll go get them. I just run down in the rain.
yeah,
I do anything and everything. And I worry that I just badgered people into being a connection at some point because I was so excited to be doing this
right,
thing and having this conversation with
yeah,
Art Chantry or James Victoria or John Bielenberg that I'm like, I'm going to will this to happen as a career and as these kind of connections with mentors one way or the other. And I don't know that they thought I was talented, but they knew I gave a shit. They knew I was very excited about this and that I would just run at a wall at 110% to make it
yeah,
happen. And I think that really resonated with folks. And
mhm,
it's sad, but in creative industries, it's really easy for folks to get jaded and kind of get bored with the repetition and not keep that spark going. And man, I had spark for me and everybody else to spare.
yeah.
So I
Sounds
think
like it. Yeah,
that helped a
yeah,
ton. Um,
yeah.
and I would say probably the music work as well. I know Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips. We worked on a little thing together, and I talked
Flaming
his ear
lips.
off
Yeah,
to the point where thinking back, I'm like, he had to be sick of me. I just talked at him for 2 hours about how excited I was about all this. Um,
yeah,
but, yeah, I think it was that enthusiasm, and when I moved to Austin, I just sought out everyone who I thought was doing something interesting, and not just
mm,
designers or writers, but chefs, photographers, artists and artisans, you name it, and I would just
yeah,
say, "Hey, can I buy you a beer, bring you some donuts, and show you my work? I just want half an hour of your time, would love to meet you." And that, again, resonated with folks. It's like free beer or free donuts will get you farther in situations than you would imagine.
yeah.
And
Right.
so got lots of yeses, and made some amazing connections. There's a brilliant photographer named Michael O'Brien who, if you look him up, you'll recognize a zillion of his portraits from everything from Rolling Stone to the Willie Nelson book. He's just Godhead great as a portrait artist. And I was showing him my book. And for my senior thesis in grad school, I edited, wrote, and compiled and then designed like a 115-page book on Tom Waits, big coffee table book kind of thing.
Mhm.
And that's all he wanted to look at. And I'm trying to tell him about all these other projects and exhibit my enthusiasm for this thing. And he's just focused on the book. And I'm like, this is not going well.
Yeah.
And so he finally stopped me. He said, "Hey, how many of these books do you have?" And I said, "Well, just the one. Like it's hand bound, it's handmade, it's hand cut every page. Like
Oh.
it's just this." And he was like, "Oh, that's a bummer because Tom's a friend, and I would love to send one to Tom Waits." And I said, "Wait." I said, "Give me 2 days. There will be 2 copies, and you can send one to Tom Waits." And he did. Like, what a sweet thing to
Wow.
do for a kid,
Yeah.
you know? And then funny enough, I'm now friends with his son, who has become an amazing young designer. And I've gotten to kind of collaborate and mentor with him just a little bit. I'm just a huge fan of his. But it's pretty cool that I have relationships in both directions that
Yeah.
span generations like that. And talk about a talented family. Geez. It was stuff like that, chefs, you name it. If you're doing something interesting, I want to know you. And again, the enthusiasm really rode that wave. I'm a naturally socially awkward person. So if I have a purpose, if I have like a framework for the conversation, I can knock it out of the park. But I am about the worst person you'll ever meet at small talk. Like you put me at a kid's soccer game with a bunch of dads who are in finance, and I'm sinking. I am like, the energy meter is just depleting
Right,
at a
right.
very fast rate. But if it's in a space that I know or I'm excited about, or you just kind of meet people who you immediately know are your people, I can
Yeah.
talk your ear off.
Yeah.
But yeah, small talk is not my forte.
Yeah, that's why, I think, that was kind of one of the things that inspired this podcast because I always had like, I can talk about business all day long, and have these
Yeah.
long conversations with, like, other, friends in business. I have a lot of friends in business over the years and but we can, we'll talk, have some small talk maybe, but really I just light up when I'm, we get
Yeah.
to the business part or the marketing part, what you're building. And so that's what you want to find. And I think the other thing too, is I think about is like, again, like my web design agency I have now, I started like, early 2019. One of the things that in various business I've had over the years, is that if you're really excited about what you do and you're passionate about it, to get the word out and to build the initial business and buzz around, just talk about it, shout it from the rooftops. Every person you meet, you somehow find a way to weave in your story and what you're doing,
Yeah.
and that's how you start building relationships, and the people that, some people aren't going to care, but other people that might lead to something else. And as you can't be, I mean, there's a lot of shy people I'm sure have successful businesses, but one of the things that's worked for me is the ability to just talk to people about what
Yeah.
they're doing, being interested in what they're doing, but then also hopefully it comes back, well, what are you doing?
Definitely.
And then you could and if you're passionate about it, you're good at it, you should be able to talk about it all day. And yeah, it's a
Much to
beautiful
my
thing.
team's chagrin, I can do that.
Yeah, right. I know. It reminds me of, my dad. I grew up. He worked for John Deere for like 30 plus years,
Cool.
and he had so much passion for John Deere. You couldn't sit at the dinner
That's
table
awesome.
and not hear about anything about John Deere. It was always that's like his whole life. He was just so passionate about it. And he went on to start his own computer repair business after he retired, and that would be the thing. But you can just tell the people that are really, and
Yeah.
those are the people that are actually going to do something,
Well,
with
that
what.
points to a great business and a great internal culture, right? If
Yeah,
if you're, I don't know what your dad did, but your guy in this position is as passionate as the founder about John Deere, that's huge. You're building a great internal culture.
yeah, yeah,
When in the 60s, when the space program was really going crazy, and they were trying to get, the moon thing figured out, Kennedy went to visit NASA, and he was walking around talking with people and being given the tour, and he passed this guy with a mop and a broom, and he said, "What do you do here?" And he said, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon." Like, that's
Nice.
it. Let's
Yeah,
go. That's internal
exactly.
culture right there.
Exactly.
Like, if it goes all the way around to the janitorial staff, like, you're nailing it. You're absolutely crushing
Yeah.
it.
100%. Yeah, he uh towards the, I mean, he started out, was like a punch press operator, and worked his way up, and then
Cool.
went back to school and all that stuff, but he at the end he was like, he'd just tell these stories of, like, these giant measuring machines that he programmed. And he was a program these machines, and they would measure things to the millionth of an inch, and he would just get so into it. But yeah, but
It's
he
amazing.
didn't own the company. But he was passionate. It was green. There was green everywhere.
Yeah. Well,
It
it's an
was, yeah,
iconic brand, it's an iconic product.
yeah,
Like, I can grab my
yeah.
nine-year-old and say, "Point out the John Deere," and he'll point to it. If I say, "Point at the Kubota," he'll be like, "I don't know what a
Like, what is
Kubota
that?
is." But
Right,
everybody
exactly,
recognizes John Deere.
exactly. You find your way. You said, for the last 16 years you've been
Yeah,
running this current agency.
correct.
Um, and how's that been going? How was that journey?
It's great. I think in the beginning, it was a little rough and ramshackle. I did not go to business school, so I taught myself how to run an agency,
Mm,
with a lot of help. And in the beginning, it was rough and ramshackle. I'm a designer and writer at my core, and so I think I wanted to have my hands in everything, because I felt like every piece of work that goes out is a direct reflection of us and what we do, and me specifically. I don't think that necessarily makes for a good teaching leader or a great boss, but I got
yeah.
much better.
Mm,
And again, pointing back to that culture thing, I've been able to build a team of 16 folks that are all bought in, are all supportive of each other, high skill level, low ego, collaborative, supportive of each other. It's a wonderful group of human beings. A lesson I learned a long time ago is that when I'm hiring somebody, I can teach you to be a great brand designer. I can't teach you to be a great person. Like, that
mm,
ship has sailed, right? Like, you are who you are at this point. I can
right.
teach you skills. So I might hire the second or third best portfolio, knowing that we can ramp them up as a team to be great. But I can't teach somebody who's a jerk not to be a jerk.
Yeah, it's just, the culture you want to build, and the type of people
Yeah.
you want to work with.
And my team
And
fiercely protects it. They're as passionate as I am about it. They will quickly point out a job applicant who may seem very talented, but has a chip on their shoulder, and that goes to the bottom of the pile.
that, you include everybody in kind of the hiring process then?
Yeah, it's happened organically over the past 7 years or so, where it used to be me at the top, and then other folks would get to talk to this person. Now that's upside down. I'm the last person to talk to
Is
an
that right?
applicant because my team gets in and asks the hard questions and filters out the people who don't fit and champions the folks who do. So I'm the last person to meet you, if you're going to work at the agency, which is wild. And I'm very proud of that.
That's got to save you some time too.
It saves time
It's
and
like the great filter.
it saves
Yeah.
time. It
Uh,
builds them ownership in what we're
yeah.
doing and authority. And it gives them an opportunity to exhibit how good they are at judging this stuff and how passionate they
Mhm.
are about what we're doing. So it's a win-win, I think.
Yeah. So, and then along the way, were there any other challenges that you had personally?
There was a little hiccup, uh, a number of years ago
I
where
teed that up a little bit.
yeah, I know. It's like little thing, little thing.
Little thing.
So I was a healthy, young, fit, super enthusiastic, super creative agency leader. And over the course of a couple of months, just started feeling awful. I had no energy. I couldn't walk across the room without having to lay down. Um,
Huh.
Severe sort of arthritic body pain and fibromyalgia, a lot of other really odd symptoms, and brain fog to the point that you wouldn't believe. I couldn't hold a conversation like we're having now because you would ask me a question and I would think, this is where I say something witty or interesting. What do I have witty or interesting to say? And I'm saying this quickly, it moves so slow that by the time I could even grasp the question, the conversation's already a mile down the road, right? It was
That's gotta be, like, jarring. Like,
it was
how do
bizarre.
how does that look for your, like, you're running a company, you're running a team, or
Not
you're
good.
doing creative work?
Not good,
Like
oddly enough.
I mean, where people must have been supportive of you, obviously, to
They
make all these
were,
things
but
are
there
happen.
wasn't a
But
name for it. Like, we didn't know what it was, and I was personally sort of embarrassed and awkward about it. So I don't know
sure,
that I did a good job of sharing with my team because I couldn't explain it. I know they saw it, they felt it. And the team was a lot smaller then. And so we kind of went on life support mode where we only took on projects that I had such familiarity with that I could do them in my sleep. And I would just spend 3 times the amount of time and energy that I would have normally used to hammer it together.
wow,
That went on for about a year and a half before I was finally diagnosed with something. I flew all over the country to a bunch of different doctors. And finally in New York, this wonderful doctor said, "Have you been tested for Lyme disease?" And I said, "No, no one has brought that up at all. I've been told everything else from cancer to it's in your mind to Epstein-Barr to you name it." Um, and he said, "We're testing you." And sure enough, it came back positive for Lyme disease and another tick-borne disease called ehrlichiosis. That's actually the even more dangerous one to your health because it can liquefy your organs and kill you dead. Lyme
no kidding.
disease, I'm sure, has killed plenty, but it will just make your life miserable until you're able to harness it. So,
Wow.
as bad as that news was, I was kind of overjoyed to at least know what was going on and to be able to talk to somebody about it in a way where they understood. And he
Sure.
was like, "Whoa, whoa, buddy, easy with the enthusiasm. This is not great news. Like, you have been undiagnosed for a year and a half. A lot of this stuff has progressed to a point where we're not going to be able to bring you back. Like, there's lasting damage, and at least
Mm,
some of this is going to stick around for the rest of your life." I was like, "Well, that doesn't sound great. So let's talk to some more doctors." Bounced around New York a good bit, and eventually got sent by this wonderful doctor to the doctor in upstate Pennsylvania who they send all of the best doctors send you to, and they just can't figure out what to do with you. This guy was a primary holistic doctor who, oddly enough, in the 1980s had cured himself of the same situation. Again, 1980s. So he's laying in bed with a phone, calling doctors, getting advice, and building these protocols to get himself healthy. And he spent a few years taking me through these protocols, probably 2 to 5 calls a day, measuring symptoms and progress, and this is working and this is not. And if I were to describe the protocols to you, you would be amazed and repulsed. Everything from diet to physical things to just some really weird stuff that we did. But over time, it started to work, and I started to
no
kind of
kidding.
pull out of that, which
Wow.
was nothing short of amazing.
Wow. Um, so yeah, when we were discussing this in our pre-call, I mentioned the only reference point I had was there's a like a
Ren.
Welsh, yeah, wren.
Yep.
And did you check him out since then? Have
I
you?
watched the whole documentary and it was
Did
very
you?
familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
he had a rough go of it too. And I love that he's so vocal about it. I'm much more vocal about it now. I wish I had known about him. I knew about him as an artist, but I didn't know his Lyme disease story until you
Oh,
mentioned it
okay,
to me.
okay. Yeah, I just, I'm a big, I'm addicted to YouTube, and
Aren't we all?
and so I usually end my days just watching YouTube. But the algorithm is you watch one thing one time, and he had like a really popular song that got tens of millions of 50 million plus views and it was being people were reacting to it. And so once you watch one reaction, I got to watch another one, and then 50 reactions later. But that's how I got to know him, though. I listened to some of his other music. I just kind of get really into something for a while. I haven't
Yeah.
listened to him for a little while, um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I just that
I'm a completist. If I fall in love with somebody, I'm gonna listen to everything they do until I
yeah,
absolutely burn it out and then give it a break. Yeah,
that's
that's
what
me.
happens. Yeah, I'm the
I
same
just
way.
straight ahead.
My wife will be like, "We're listening to this again." Yes, yes,
And
we
I'm
are.
seeing that in my 16-year-old son, who is
That's all right.
absolutely obsessed with the Strokes right now and knows
Ah,
everything about the Strokes.
yeah, yeah.
So it's nice to see my natural neuroses and my child moving at least into a creative and positive direction.
Nice, nice. No, so I mean, so back to Lyme disease. I mean, do you think like when did you experience that? When
This
was
would have
that?
been about 10, 12 years ago.
Oh, okay. Do you think since then it's becoming more
Yes.
known
It is
and
so
looked
much
for?
more known and written about. There's a national conversation, an international conversation going on right now about the fact that in the '70s, there was a vaccine against Lyme disease that worked wonderfully.
Hmm.
And for one reason or the other, they phased it out. There's another one in clinical trials that could be out next year, but nobody seems to have much enthusiasm for it in the drug companies. And
Hmm.
I'm so hopeful that it can get passed.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So this whole time, this year and a half or longer, obviously,
Yeah.
that's how long it took to get diagnosed.
Yeah.
And then there's a path after that to get better. This whole time, your agency is still running. You're still working. You're trying to.
Yeah, I'm going through the motions and I'm probably not doing
Yeah.
a great job.
But there are
But I
people, but you must have had people that were supporting you to
yes,
really helping you
yes,
run things better.
thankfully. It was
Yeah.
still kind of in that early phase where I was doing way too much myself. So that was a great reminder that I can't do everything myself and probably
Right.
helped start to build the agency that we are today. Um, but yeah, it was tough. And on the personal side, I had a newborn to 3-year-old kid, who I didn't have a relationship with. Like, I was either asleep at work or lying on the couch trying to
Sure.
not feel like I'm dying. So didn't have as many of those bonding moments. But as I started to get better, I was able to really, recognize that and build an amazing relationship with that kid. That's my guy. As we got better and better, some unexpected things happened. One, because I was eating like super clean and these very specific recipes and protocols, my wife kind of ate the same stuff too, because
Hmm.
who wants to cook two dinners? Joke's on her. Now we have 2 kids. She cooks like 3 dinners, right? But we get to this point where we're both healthy enough that to back up, when we had my first son, we had to do in vitro and all that creative stuff to make it happen, which is kind of a roller coaster and not the best experience. But hey, it gets you a kid, so you're kind of brand loyal for life at that point with those guys. But the protocols that my doctor had me on got us both so much more healthy that we had a kid when we were told we would never be able to have another kid on our own.
No kidding. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So I have a miracle 9-year-old who should not be a kid, because
Yeah.
we were not able to have kids on our own. And when I told the doctor, so I found out my wife walked in on Valentine's Day. It was either Valentine's Day or our anniversary. I can't remember. We were watching a movie and she walked in with a pregnancy test and she said, "What the fuck is this?" And my romantic response was, "That's not possible." Well, it was very possible. And I told my doctor, and
Wow.
he was like, "I probably should have warned you. That happens a lot once people get on these protocols." I was like, "Well, great. I'll
Wow.
take it." We always
Made you
wanted 2
more fertile.
kids. Yeah. Yeah. It it was wild. But oh my gosh, I'm just so thankful for that. And if honestly, if I had to go through all that mess to have this kid, I'd do it again. I wouldn't be happy about it. I wouldn't want to know going in what I was gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I've just got this wonderful 9-year-old that just absolutely has my heart. So, it's worth it in a really weird way.
This is, I mean, it's such a story of, you have something like that happen to you that's out of your control. And you don't know where life's gonna take you from there. I mean, you're struggling bad,
You don't.
but
We like to build the illusion of control in our
yeah,
lives, but we really have very little. I think
it
it's
makes it, yeah.
it's
Even from a small business,
yeah,
there's a lot of small business or businesses out there that might listen to this and be like, well, what if something like that happened to me? What would who's there to support
yeah,
me, or what's going to happen to my business? That alone is it's amazing you came out of that. But what's amazing is also you came out of that and you suddenly you're in a almost a better place than you were before. Maybe even a better like
yeah,
outlook of life and
yeah,
appreciation for life.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, I can
funny
imagine.
enough, coming out of that, I've got this like new, just absolute lust for life. I'm just so excited
Sure.
that I don't feel like I'm dying. Kind of realized that, oh, I don't really have a life. Like my business has been limping along. Socially, I've been just like shut off from people for a few years now.
Mm,
So I've lost a lot of that stuff that I had, and I had to kind of rebuild it. And the
mm,
cool thing is I end up using a lot of the tenets we use in brand building to kind of build the life and the business that I wanted. And you're absolutely right. I'm in a much better, more fortunate, wonderful place than I ever could have imagined before.
Yeah, I suppose you can kind of redesign your life, rebuild it,
Yeah.
and architect it based on you're in kind of this headspace where I want to build a life that is my
Yeah.
life and what I want to do. And if, yeah, I would imagine that. I mean, again, I've been going through a not, didn't go through that, but I have gone through, I've had decades of building businesses and ups and downs and stuff like that. And I feel like I've landed in a pretty good place, but I've also landed in a place where I don't want to just be the business guy either. I want to build my life. I'm gonna make sure
Yeah.
I have other things. So art's become more of a thing in my life again and in this
Great.
past year. Yeah, it's little things like that, I think, enriches your life. And, yes, especially when you're younger, you're passionate about what you're doing, and maybe it does become your whole life for a while, and friends are on the back burner. And maybe someday I'll have friends again. But there's a certain point where, especially something like that happens where it's like, well, what is actually important in my life?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a wild thing. Um, so, so business is good.
Business is
You're,
great. We're
yeah.
thriving. We're growing. We have amazing clients. We're doing more international work. We're just kind of hitting our perfect stride as an agency right now,
So
and I'm really
you're
excited
doing,
about where
I
the
mean, you're
guys.
doing international work. You're, um, pretty decent sized, but how many people you got working for you
16
right now?
folks.
16 people.
Yep.
You named some pretty big brands in the beginning. Is that something that just kind of, through your work and word of mouth, or you probably really good at branding and marketing yourself as well? Or how is that?
I think it's a cobbler's son never has shoes kind of thing with that. Although we do a lot of work
Yeah.
that venture, but international work. How does it come in? It really is a mixture of a handful of things. One is industry reputation.
Hmm.
Someone says, "Who branded Tecovas? Get me that agency." Right? Great.
Gotcha.
Another is I've been doing this for 20 something years. So folks that I worked with early in my career bounce around and end up, for example, at Harley Davidson. And he's like, "Hey,
Oh,
remember
really?
that project I hired you for back when you were small? Well, now I work at Harley and I want you to brand our new World Cup thing that we're doing." And then the other is well, actually two others. We're doing a tremendous amount of really smart targeted marketing. And then lastly, we are starting to collaborate with an agency in the UK, Singapore, etc., on international work. They don't really have a US presence,
Hmm.
and they want more work in the US. So we co-pitch these projects and work on some really interesting stuff. Like we did the Mandalorian Star Wars movie that came out this spring. Mandalorian slash Star Wars slash Disney did a collaboration with Nabisco on their Nilla wafers brand and built these little blue Nilla wafers that appear in the movie that the little baby Yoda eats them.
Oh, sure.
And so
Yeah, I saw the movie. So.
we did the
Yeah.
packaging for the retail version of that. It's behind me on the shelf.
Oh, nice.
But we got to work with Baby Yoda. Like that's
Yeah,
insane.
right. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's like reach back in time and high five 8-year-old you. You know, it's like you're working with
Right.
Star Wars, dude. You got to be doing
Yeah,
something right.
yeah. I love Star Wars. Actually, my wife and I watched all the Mandalorian the whole TV show,
So
so we
good.
could watch yeah, we get into those things sometimes, but it's fun. No, that's really, really cool. So things are good. Your business is growing, or you're expanding, you're, doing good work. I mean, is expansion important to you, or is it like, are you in just
Yes and no. I think we always want to grow enough to meet amazing opportunities that show up for us. So we don't ever want to have
mhm,
to turn away Baby Yoda because
yeah,
we're too small or we're too
right.
slammed. But we want to maintain the level of creativity and the type of work we do and not start taking on semiconductor clients to pay the bills and grow exponentially and kind of kill that internal culture and the things that we love about what we do. So it's a
That
balance
makes sense.
between those things.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, so if somebody wants to learn more about what you're doing, we'll see if we'll talk about it, you coming back. I would actually love to talk branding and stuff with you.
I think we have another one in us. Sure.
I think we do. But in the meantime, if somebody wants to learn more about what you're doing, where's your website out there? Do you hang out on the World Wide Web anywhere, LinkedIn or Instagram? What's your thing? What's your
We
jam?
are on the interweb. So helmsworkshop.com online. Really active in LinkedIn, T. Christian Helms and Helms Workshop on LinkedIn. And then sometimes posting things on Instagram, sometimes letting the agency focus on the agency account so I can be a little lax in my personal account.
Nice.
But it's still worth checking out. There's some good stuff in there.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, until next time, Christian.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks for joining us. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Builders Podcast. One more quick note about our sponsors. At Unified Web Design, we're passionate about doing better together, partnering with agencies and businesses to deliver exceptional web design, development, and ongoing support. And UnifiedLabs.ai is where we explore smart, practical ways to integrate AI directly into your website and e-commerce flows. From intelligent chatbots to marketing automation to back-end reporting, all with a strong focus on user experience and making your systems work smarter. If you haven't already, subscribe or follow to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, sharing it with someone who might benefit helps us grow this amazing community. Until next time, keep building smarter, bolder, and with purpose.